Michael Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, says that President Obama was in on the plot to, quote, frame Flynn. Quote, the whole thing was orchestrated and set up with the FBI, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former CIA Director John Brennan, and in the Oval Office meeting that day with President Obama. When asked if she believes that Flynn was the victim of a plot that went all the way up to Obama, his attorney, Michael Flynn's attorney, said, quote, absolutely. The January 5th meeting at the White House was just 15 days before President Trump took office, included Obama, Sally Yates, Jim Comey, former Vice President Joe Biden, who's now running for president, CIA Director John Brennan, and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper.
It's absolutely clear that James Comey and President Obama were running point on this investigation to the extent, Jordan, that the acting Attorney General, Sally Yates, who, by the way, no friend of the president's. I mean, just talk to Andy later in the broadcast. She's got her whole list of things that she did inappropriately. But at this stage of the game, even she did not know the extent of this investigation. It was at the level of Jim Comey and President Obama. And, Jordan, the other person who I think needs some discussion today is Mary McCord, who worked for Sally Yates at the time, and even she found this idea that Jim Comey and President Obama were pursuing to be so far-fetched that she didn't brief Sally Yates before that meeting in the Oval Office that you're talking about. The last takeaway I'll give you, Mary McCord, what did she do after that? She left to work with Adam Schiff and then collaborated with the intelligence community Inspector General Michael Atkinson to do what, Jordan? To facilitate the whistleblower. Do you think this was concocted by the deep state?
I think the facts on the ground will support the inference that President Obama essentially ordered James Comey to continue the investigations. And so if you look at the conduct of Andrew McCabe, you look at the conduct of Peter Strzok, you look at the conduct of James Comey, who engaged in a deliberate effort to trigger the appointment of a special counsel. All of this is consistent with an agreement or a conspiracy beforehand to impair the Trump administration.
One comment on that soundbite you played from President Obama. He says our basic understanding of rule of law is at risk. I would agree with him on that point, because when you're a federal bureaucrat and the regular order of justice does not get your intended goal, you leave the Department of Justice to join Adam Schiff's office and then concoct a scheme from the legislative side of things. I would say that is our very understanding of rule of law being at risk. Had he not known if this scheme had risen to that level, it would have been his duty, Jordan, to shut it down. But not only did he not shut it down, he actually pushed people out of the room that he did not expect to know about it. He kept people in the room who he expected to know about it.
Obama did not like Flynn. He was, quote, not a fan of his. He knew that Flynn, if he got into the administration, would uncover the fact that the Russia collusion theory with Trump was a hoax, and so he gave instructions to Comey, and don't tell me he didn't give instructions to Sally Yates. They had gotten instructions from the monarch, from the king, Obama, and they were going to continue to follow through with those instructions to do away with Flynn.
It tells me exactly why all of these people are not speaking out. President Obama breaking the norm about speaking about a successor, Mary McCord writing an op-ed, Jim Comey writing a book. He's been talking, for as long as possible. Sally Yates talking. What are they doing, Jordan? They're trying to cover their tracks because they were all in the room when this went down.
I think it shows the great evolution of our justice process, that those who have been pressured to plead guilty even to some lesser charges and bogus charges that justice can be done correctly. And that's an evolution, not devolution. This is an evolution of our justice system.